We are going to begin, though, with the race for the White House and the conflict brewing between the campaigns over the rules for the first presidential debate between the official nominees. Former President Donald Trump is once again stoking doubts over whether he'll even show up on September 10th, as both sides offer conflicting terms on how the night should work. At the center of that discussion is whether the candidate's mic should be muted when the other is speaking. That was the agreement, or the arrangement rather, during the only debate between Trump and President Biden in late June. But the Harris campaign says it wants mics to stay on through the full event. Yesterday, the Harris team claimed the Trump team wanted mics to be muted, quote, because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. While in Virginia, when asked about muted microphones, Trump said, quote, doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on. Aaron Navarro is tracking the latest from the Harris campaign. Aaron, it's always good to see you. With Donald Trump, you really never know what exactly he means because he kind of went back and forth with that answer. From Trump's remarks yesterday, though, it looks like the microphone issue kind of might be settled, but it seems unclear if he's actually committed to the date because he had other complaints as well. I want to play a clip of what he said yesterday.
I think ABC should be shut out. I'd much rather do it on NBC. I'd much rather do it on CBS, frankly. I think CBS is very unfair, but the best of the group. And certainly I'd do it on Fox. I'd even do it on CNN. I thought CNN treated us very fairly the last time. I think Jake Tapper was very fair and Dana Bash was very fair. But when I watched this interview of Tom Cotton, fortunately he's a total pro, he knows what he's doing. And then when I watched the roundtable after that, I said the hostility is crazy. So we're thinking about it.
All right, so it was all that, and then he said he was thinking about it. That being said, you know, if he doesn't show up in September, where does that leave the Harris campaign? I mean, is it a good thing that there isn't a debate and then she can sort of go on kind of allowing people to define her the way they wish to, or a bad thing?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. You know, this is part of the back and forth that has been frequent for Trump prior to debates. He had some skepticism about CNN going into that debate earlier this summer. So it is a bit usual. The microphone issue seems to be settled, at least in the eyes of the Harris campaign. They often troll and say that Trump will not show up to these debates. But at this moment, with only 70 or so days until the election, showing that contrast between Harris and Trump is crucial for their campaign as they, yes, fundraise and get the base involved, but they need to convince those moderates, suburban voters on the fence. The debate is one way to do that.
So Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are going to be kicking off a bus tour in Georgia tomorrow. Can we talk about just how important that state is? Really for both parties, but for the Democratic ticket in particular.
Yeah, Georgia's 16 electoral college votes are crucial, and they seem to be more on the map now with Harris as the candidate. As you remember, earlier this summer, one of the first rallies she held as a candidate was in Atlanta with rapper Megan Thee Stallion. But this is definitely a trip, part of a postponed trip to Savannah after Hurricane Debbie, and it does line up pre-Labor Day, pre-debate. But the Harris campaign is treating this state with importance, and that is why they are actually backing a challenge right now to new election certification rules that they say will invite chaos and last-minute changes. So they are looking at this state very closely.
Yeah, those. I don't want to get too deep into those rules because it's going to get sort of confusing. But they do sort of allow really local officials to hold up the certification of the election. It's actually really interesting what's happening in Georgia. So really quickly, this is really interesting. More than 200 staffers who worked for both former President Bush, both Bushes, Senator John McCain and Senator Mitt Romney, have all released a letter of support for President Harris, or for Harris as president. How significant is that?
Well, this is a range of former staffers, from interns to Gene Becker, the former chief of staff for George H.W. Bush, the former campaign finance director for Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign. So it really spans a lot of folks, but it is in line with the bipartisan support the Harris campaign is arguing that it has. They point to the Republican speakers they had at the convention in Chicago, and this is also following the 150 former Republican presidential administration staffers that signed a similar letter for President Biden in his 2020 campaign.
All right, Aaron, thank you. Let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Olivia Rinaldi now, who's covering the Trump campaign for us. Olivia, let's get to Trump's side of the debate debacle, if you want to call it that. As we mentioned, Donald Trump threatened to pull out of the debate scheduled for September 10th. What's the latest reporting from the Trump side on this issue?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. Of senior advisors I've spoken to on the Trump campaign, they tell me, of course, Trump still wants to do this debate. The argument they say that's coming from Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign that he's trying to find a way out, they tell me, is not true. This is all coming, of course, as Aaron beautifully laid out about the back and forth of Trump saying, well, perhaps I don't want to do the ABC debate. And then the Harris campaign saying, well, they don't want the mics unmuted. We want to keep them hot the entire time. So a lot of back and forth here. We're still searching for some answers about whether this will still go on September 10th in Philadelphia. On even ABC, you heard Trump talking about, well, I could do it really at any network, feeling that he has no allegiance to doing it specifically at ABC and, chastising some people who work there for their coverage. And so Trump is trying to, maybe set his own terms of who would even host the debate. We do know he is going to do a Fox News town hall on September 4th. That was his preference for a debate, was to do it on Fox, but he will be proceeding with that anyways. But a lot of developments there that we'll be following closely.
In the meantime, Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, is going to be in Michigan for a speech on the economy. What's he expected to highlight there?
Yeah, when they return to Michigan, they often talk about high prices, inflation, grocery prices. This is something they've hit on several times. I do also want to note it's important that Senator J.D. Vance is going back to Michigan. He's been there several times over the last several weeks, and even Donald Trump himself was there yesterday for a meeting, or remarks rather, at the National Guard Association. He'll be returning later this week to Potterville, where he'll also be talking about the economy, inflation. And of all the battlegrounds, Anne-Marie, I went back and looked. Michigan is most often visited. Trump goes there very often. He's been there. This will be about his 8th time this cycle. So it's something we're watching very closely, these trips to Michigan, counting them to know which battleground states, as we're turning past Labor Day, looking towards November, are the most important. Which ones are we going to see Senator J.D. Vance at most often? Former President Donald Trump, where is he going? And any other circuits that will be on the campaign trail, which specific battleground. So it is notable that Michigan is one they're looking at very, very closely.
What is it about Michigan, then, that they feel that spending time there, spending money there, they can actually make some headway?
It's partially talking about suburban women and, kitchen table issues. That's something we are likely to hear from Senator J.D. Vance today, talking about those high grocery prices, rising costs. Perhaps you can't take your kid to go do some extracurricular activities, some sport, because it's too expensive. That's something they'll talk about there, but also the union vote. These are heavy union states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. So talking about economic issues, job issues, while being in those states is really, really critical.
And I'll just squeeze in one more question for you. RFK Jr. apparently told Tucker Carlson that he was asked to join Trump's potential transition team if he is reelected. There was a lot of kind of speculation that there was negotiations behind the scenes that in order to get his endorsement, Trump may have been offering something or he may have been asking for something. Has Donald Trump said anything about this?
Yeah, yesterday at one of those stops in Virginia, Donald Trump was asked, has he offered RFK anything? And he said, or perhaps Secretary of Health, that it was something that he was asked about. And Trump said, well, we haven't talked about it, but he knows a lot about the subject. Trump also added that RFK Jr. has been very well received by the Republican Party. It's very notable that Trump would say something like that, because Trump obviously has a very strong hold on his base, on the Make America Great Again MAGA movement. So for him to notice how someone is being received, how they're being liked, how, people are perhaps taking to some of their policy standpoints, topics, opinions that RFK has, as we know, that is important that Donald Trump is noting that, and that's something he's certainly taking stock of, and he mentioned it yesterday. It's something we'll be watching closely if he is to offer him anything or there's any sort of discussion. And Anne-Marie, I will also be watching closely if RFK Jr. appears back on the campaign trail with Donald Trump. That is something I feel will be extremely notable.
Yeah. All right, Olivia, thank you.